Imagine if the town of Brandon were to vanish, that its 50,000 people suddenly died. That is the size and scope of the fentanyl overdose crisis in the last 9 years of the Carney-Trudeau Liberals. A small, beautiful city like Brandon has vanished from our lives. Since 2016, 50,000 Canadians have died of overdoses to opioids, 9 in 10 of whom have died as a result of fentanyl. More Canadians have died of opioid overdoses in the last 9 years than died fighting for Canada in the Second World War. They are real people, brothers, sisters, sons, daughters, fathers, mothers, friends, and thousands more are still suffering. Countless of them are in homeless encampments, living in the hell of addiction and homelessness. It wasn't like this before Liberals radically liberalized drugs. We know what they did. They passed C5 to allow traffickers to serve their sentences in their living rooms. They eliminated mandatory prison time. They opened up our ports and our borders. 99% of the shipping containers that enter our country, 99% of those shipping containers come in without any inspection at all after 9 years of the Carney-Trudeau Liberals. Super labs in Canada synthesize using precursor chemical ingredients that come into Canada from China and Mexico through our open border policy. But it's not happening. This is something that looks like an episode of Breaking Bad. But this is not happening in New Mexico in a TV drama. It is happening here in Canada, real life, right now. In November of 2024, police dismantled what they described as the largest, most sophisticated illicit drug super lab in the country in Falkland, British Columbia. One of the accused was out of jail after earlier convictions. Police said they seized 54 kilograms of fentanyl. Now, that might not seem like a lot until you realize that it just takes 2 milligrams to kill a human being. That means there was enough finished fentanyl to kill 27 million people. Police found enough ingredients to make enough fentanyl to kill 95 million people. That's twice the population of Canada. Police also found 390 kilograms of methamphetamine, small explosives, ammunition, silencers, high-capacity magazines, body armor, $500,000 in cash, and 89 firearms, many of which were, quote, loaded and ready to be used. Days earlier, police discovered a super lab in Langley, BC, that they say was capable of producing multiple kilograms of fentanyl on a weekly basis. A Government of Canada report confirmed, and I quote, seizures of Canada-sourced fentanyl in places like the U.S. and Australia suggest that the domestic production of fentanyl is likely exceeding the domestic demand and that Canada is now a source and transit country for fentanyl to some markets. The number of seizures of fentanyl at the Canada-U.S. border more than tripled between 2023 and 2024, rising from 239,000 doses to 839 doses. How did this happen? Well, the Carney-Trudeau Liberals happened. They legalized fentanyl possession here in British Columbia in partnership with the local radical NDP BC government. They passed C5, which eliminated mandatory jail time and brought in house arrest, allowing fentanyl dealers to do their time in their living room while watching Netflix or playing Grand Theft Auto. The Falkland Super Lab that police discovered had ties to transnational criminal networks that span Mexico all the way to China. They are killing our people and many more in other countries, which is now endangering the trade with our closest ally. President Trump has threatened to tariff Canada because of what he says is lethal drug flows. But whether or not we agree with him should not matter. It should not take a foreign leader to get the Liberals to wake up to the drug crisis that they have caused here at home. It should have been enough that we lost 50,000 of our people. We should crack down on drugs not to please President Trump, but to ensure that not one more mother has to bury her face in her hands on learning that her son died of an overdose in a back alley somewhere. We must stop drugs to save our people and put Canada first. It starts with locking up mass traffickers and manufacturers of this poison with penalties that fit the crime. But what is that crime? Let's call fentanyl trafficking what it is. Mass murder. Selling 40 milligrams of this poison is enough to kill 20 people. It's like spraying bullets into a crowd. You might not know who you're killing, but it's certain someone will die. That's why I'm denouncing today, as part of my Canada First plan, that common sense Conservatives will bring mandatory prison sentences. There will be life sentences for anyone caught trafficking, producing, or exporting over 40 milligrams of fentanyl. 40 milligrams is enough to kill 20 people. Anyone who is involved in trafficking that amount of fentanyl will get a life sentence. We will lock them up and we will throw away the key. And 15 years for traffickers caught with between 20 milligrams and 40 milligrams will be the new mandatory sentence. The people we will lock away are not non-violent addicts. They are the victims. We will come to the rescue of victims and addicts. We will provide life-saving treatment. My message to anyone struggling with addiction today is have hope, hang on, help is on the way. My government will provide residential treatment. They will take people off the streets, provide them with detox, recovery, counseling, group therapy, sweat lodges for First Nations victims, and help them get into housing, a job, and back to their families. We will bring our loved ones home drug-free. Nor are we talking about the small-time dealer on a street corner, though he too will be punished. Rather, my law will go after the fentanyl kingpins who kill thousands of people each year. We will treat them like the mass murderers they are. We will bring home the country we knew and loved. After 9 years of the Carney-Trudeau Liberals, everything is broken. Housing costs have doubled. Food bank use has doubled. Gun crime has doubled. The national debt has doubled. All of this because Justin Trudeau was implementing the radical policies of carbon tax Carney. These policies have destroyed our working class, and now he threatens an even bigger carbon tax after a brief election pause, a tax that will drive hundreds of billions of dollars out of our country and continue the rising cost of living that the Carney Liberals have imposed over the last 9 years. The good news is, life was not like this before the Carney-Trudeau Liberals, and it won't be like this after they're gone. We're going to bring home the country we knew and loved. We're going to axe the tax, build the homes, fix the budget, and stop the crime. Most of all, we are going to put our country first. This will be a country where hard work pays off, where anyone from anywhere can do anything. That was the Canadian promise, and my purpose is to bring it home. Let's make this a country where anybody who works hard gets a powerful paycheck and pension that buys affordable food, gas, and homes in safe neighborhoods wrapped around the protective arms of strong borders under a proud flag for a united country, Canada. Let's bring it home.
Thank you.
And I'd like to acknowledge we have here Jesse Sahota. I said it in French already. Jesse is a police officer who has fought fentanyl and crime his whole life, a wrestling coach, and a jiu-jitsu black belt. We call him the Gentle Giant, but he will be a member of Parliament for Delta after the next election. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll now take questions from the floor, starting with the Breaker.
Hi, Bob Mackin with the Breaker.News. Good morning. You're here at the port, and you referenced 99% of containers do not get checked, and you've got your candidate here who is a police officer himself. There have been reports recently, one by Peter German, former head of the RCMP for Western Canada, who recommends restoring ports police to ports here on the West Coast and also East Coast. And the Ports Police used to have headquarters very close to here. The Chrétien Liberals shut it down. Will you bring back the Ports Police as the Canada Ports Police, or will you open up RCP detachments at ports? And also wanted to get your comment on what's going on with your nomination race in Steveston Richmond East, where Y. Young issued a statement last week downplaying the Hogue Commission report and blaming Kenny Chu, the former MP there, who's also seeking the nomination, blaming him for causing rift in the community. He's fired back and says that she's lying about the contents of the Hogue Commission report, which actually did find that Chinese government actors did target the Conservatives in 2021.
So first of all, obviously Conservatives have been victims of foreign interference. It's clear that Beijing wanted to keep Justin Trudeau in power. I've no doubt that they'll want Mark Carney to stay in power. Mark Carney has a background of shipping investment to China and favoring foreign economies over the Canadian economy. We need a prime minister who will put Canada first. On the question of ports, you're quite right. Justin Trudeau and Mark Carney and the Liberals have destroyed our border security and our ports. After 9 years of the Carney-Trudeau Liberals, our ports are allowing 99% of shipping containers to enter our country with no inspection. And that's where the drug ingredients, the guns, the stolen cars come into our country or leave to support massive crime networks. I announced that I will eliminate 2,000 bureaucrats and replace them with 2,000 extra CBSA agents who will have the power to surveil our entire border. They will also have the ability to use new high-tech scanners that can peer right through the metal walls of shipping containers to spot drugs, guns, and stolen cars. We will also expand our border security across the entire border with surveillance towers, drones, helicopters. I've said the military should immediately go to the borders to block fentanyl traffickers and other lawbreakers. The radical Trudeau-Carney experiment with open borders and post-national globalism has not only divided and weakened our country's sense of identity, it has endangered our people. When I'm Prime Minister, that radical, borderless, globalist ideology pushed by the Trudeau-Carney Liberals will end, and we will have a Prime Minister that seals the border, protects our people, and puts Canada first.
Thank you. The next question will go to the Western Standard.
Hi, Jared Yeager from the Western Standard. So the Liberals now appear to be taking the fentanyl trafficking more seriously with the announcement of a fentanyl czar. Do you think this move is purely performative, or do you think it'll actually have an impact? Also, do you think your plan will have support across the aisle?
Thank you for your question. Of course it's performative. The Liberals would like you to believe that they now agree with Pierre Poilievre and the common sense Conservatives on everything. You know, why is it that right before the election they suddenly changed their mind? Well, because they're trying to, these lying Liberals are trying to trick Canadians into giving them a fourth term. They're not going to change. The only way you'll get a change is by electing a common sense Conservative government that will put Canada first. I have been against the carbon tax all along. I've been against the capital gains tax increase all along. I've been against fentanyl and in favor of tough penalties and strong borders all along. The Liberals will try to trick you to think that into thinking that they now agree with Pierre Poilievre on everything. There is only one common sense Conservative government. There is only one common sense Canada First party that can change the country. And I am the leader of that party. I will be the one to stop the fentanyl and bring home the country that we knew and love.
En français. Thank you. The next question will be from the Globe and Mail.
On the proposed legislation for life for kingpin dealers, what is your strategy for the notwithstanding clause? To use it at all, to use it preemptively, to see it play out through the courts?
What I am proposing today is not only allowed under the Charter, it is required by the Charter. Section 7 of the Charter of Rights and Freedoms guarantees life, liberty, and security of the person. 50,000 people had their Section 7 right to life violated by the open borders, soft on crime, legal drugs policy of the Liberals. I will protect the charter rights of Canadians and their right to life, liberty, and the security of the person by locking up the mass murderers that bring these drugs in. This penalty that I propose is proportionate to the crime. If you kill dozens of people, you should go away for life. And that is what we will do. I will lock up these fentanyl murderers and we will throw away the key. And I will do it not just to save lives, but to uphold the Charter of Rights and Freedoms.
En français.
But would you use 33 to insulate the law so it doesn't get bat down in court?
Oh, it won't. No, well, because the judges are going to be obliged by Section 7. It's clear that people have the right to life, liberty, and security of the person. So what I'm proposing is necessary to uphold the Charter of Rights and Freedoms. And you do not have the right to go out and kill 20 or 30 people by spreading poison in the community. That is not a charter right. So the Liberals believe that mass fentanyl murderers who have taken 50,000 lives have the right to go free on the streets. That is how they interpret the charter. Here's how I interpret the charter. That law-abiding people have the right to expect that their children will not die in back alleys. That's the charter right I will uphold. Next question.
En français.
Section 7 is the section in question.
Thank you. This will be the final question from True North.
Hello. You've argued that Parliament should be recalled to address the tariff threat facing Canada, which is related to the fentanyl crisis that you've spoken about earlier today. But however, you're also calling for an election. Of course, dissolving Parliament would be required to have an election. How can we have both of these views simultaneously? And given the urgency of the situation and the looming tariff threats, would having an election and dissolving Parliament be a responsible or wise course of action at this time?
It would be not only responsible, it is the only responsible course of action. We have a Liberal government that has totally lost control of everything. The Trudeau-Carney government has lost control of spending, having doubled the debt, lost control of crime, having seen gun crime rise by 116%. They've lost control of the borders with thousands of illegal migrants, drugs, guns pouring in over our borders and threatening our people. They've lost control of the cost of living with rising taxes and a doubling of housing costs. And they have lost control of our national sovereignty by blocking pipelines, mines, LNG plants. The Carney-Trudeau Liberals have made us hopelessly dependent on the Americans. They've handed over our economic sovereignty to President Trump, who spots weakness. And now, what is a real estate mogul from the fiercest economic jungle in the world, New York City? What does he do when he spots weakness? He pounces. He pounces on the weakness that Carney-Trudeau Liberals have caused in this country. We cannot allow this weakness to continue. We need an axe the tax election to elect a new common sense conservative government that will secure our borders, stop the drugs, lock up the criminals, axe taxes, approve and greenlight massive resource projects, cut the bureaucracy, and bring home Canada's promise. And that promise is very simple. It is my purpose in politics. It is to make it so that anyone from anywhere can do anything, that hard work earns a powerful paycheck and pension, that buys affordable food, gas, and homes in safe neighborhoods within the protective arms of a strong border under a proud Canadian flag. Let's bring it home.
Thank you. That concludes today's press conference.